Two. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin, and today we have a very interesting person who is, somebody we'd like you to meet. Today we're doing coffee with Richard Weil. But before we do that, let's thank the people who are paying our bills today. Era Group and Ed Flanagan. Listen, if you are tired of paying your employee taxes and like to get some of that back, call Ed Flanagan and see about his IRS sanctioned Cafeteria 125 plan. This plan will reroute some of that money legally, and some of it ends up back in your pocket. So, if you're tired of paying these taxes and would like to give your employees a little bit more back in their pockets, call Ed Flanagan, and he will talk about his cafeteria plan with you. Back to the show, coffee with Richard Weil. Richard, before we go into the show, why don't you uh, introduce yourself?
I'd be glad to. First of all, thank you both, Fred and Larry, for having me this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to chat about the food service and hospitality industry, which has been my passion my entire life. I grew up in the industry. My parents were both in the food service distribution business, uh, and they started their business in 1951. And I was always surrounded by what was going on in the food service and hospitality industry. I grew up literally in restaurants, and when it came time for me to learn more about it at 14 years of age, I actually did what most people do in our industry. I started washing dishes. And I think being a dishwasher is a great way to teach you a lot about yourself and a lot about what goes on in a restaurant. And I did that for about one summer, and then continued to work in back of the house. I enjoyed working in kitchens, and at 15 years of age, I actually became a short order cook in a small diner and learned a lot about time management. And I think becoming a short order cook was a very good experience for me because I absolutely had to get organized, and I had to be watching and be very wareful of what's going on around me. I actually was involved in a restaurant fire while I was there and learned how to escape a fire from a too fat fryer that had
Wow.
caught on fire.
Thank
And
God.
I was fine and everything else, but I learned about some emergency preparedness and went on from there and started serving, waiting tables. I've then decided I wanted to continue that and get a formal degree, and was introduced to the University of Houston Hilton College, which was a new program back in 1974. But they had a brand new facility in the spring of 74 that Conrad Hilton had worked with the then Dean James C. Taylor uh, to put together a beautiful hospitality hotel restaurant management program. And I began looking at different programs across the country, including Cornell, Michigan State, Oklahoma State, Washington State. Those were the bigger names back then. The University of Denver. But I chose the University of Houston, and I'm very glad that I did. I got to meet some extraordinary people, great experiences. When I was 18 years of age, the three Hiltons at the time came to the campus, the one and only time that Baron Hilton, Eric Hilton, and Mr. Conrad Hilton stepped foot in the college that was named after Conrad Hilton. I got to shake hands and meet all three of them. It was quite an experience. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I decided I wanted to go work in hotels because of that event. And so I started working in hotels and uh, worked as a front desk clerk. And then eventually, over the time, I worked night audit and worked in some of the front of the house and some restaurant side of things and got my degree. I then went to work for Aramark for a while in food service, and Aramark was a great teacher. They still are. They are probably one of the preeminent uh, restaurant food service operations that really teach you controls and understanding. And I did that. And I think if you were to go to their headquarters in Philadelphia today, I think you'd still find that they're extremely dedicated to understanding the numbers side of things. And I learned a lot about the numbers. And then from there, I went to work for Hilton for a while, and then ended up working in my family's food service distribution business. And our company was acquired by Kraft Food Service back in 1983, and I worked for them for 18 more years and became an operating company president of 3 different food service distribution companies, and ended up going to work eventually for a larger food service distribution company where I was the national vice president of sales and marketing, and decided that I didn't really want to work for the Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies anymore. And I was actually interviewed on Wall Street years ago. It was barbarians at the gate back in those days. And I decided I moved up. I had done a corporate moves from Denver to Salt Lake to Denver to California to New Mexico to Denver in a 12-year period. I had a young family, and I decided, you know what, I think I'll do something different. So I was introduced to an opportunity and bought a very fledgling little pizza company, and only had 7 different restaurants at the time. And then myself and a couple other people, we grew the business. We opened 134 restaurants in a 7-year period. Took the company public and brought it back, and didn't sell it for enough profit to completely retire. But then I went into after that, decided, okay, enough is enough. I really had done really well with this, and decided at that point to get into the consulting side of things, because I just felt like at that point I had really experienced a lot of things, and I thought I could help people. Along the way, I've been involved with the Chefs Association. I was involved with the American Hotel Lodgers Association, and then multiple state restaurant associations. I've been involved with the National Restaurant Association, and served as a board member of the State of California Restaurant Association, State of New Mexico Restaurant Association, and then became chairman of the board of the Colorado Restaurant Association many years ago, and I'm still active. Also, I spent time with the International Food Service Executives Association, where I've been a past chairman of the board of that group. So I believe in giving back, and that's part of my world as far as consulting. I think you give back to the industry that you've been so successful with. I've met literally hundreds and hundreds of wonderful people along the way. My closest friends are out of this industry, out of my college, if you would. I'm still very active with the Hilton College and University of Houston. And that's kind of my 4-minute elevator speech.
Wow.
But I believe in giving back, and I think that's really what it is. I'm very lucky.
Wow.
My wife and I have been married for 46 years, and I have 8 wonderful grandchildren, of which 2 of them are here with me where I'm in California right now. I hope that they're still sleeping. It's 7 in the morning here, and that we don't hear from them. But I'm very blessed. As I said, 46 years with my wife. She's a restaurant widow, and that's how I think that's it. And I'm also an avid football fan, an NFL football fan. Have Broncos season tickets. Have been in our family since the Broncos started in 1961, and all my grandchildren and my whole family are Bronco fans. So that's pretty good. Hard to be a Colorado Rockies fan, I will tell you that. But
that comes and goes. That comes and goes just like everything else. But
yeah, so that's my background.
Your background, if you look at it with a microscope, you see this progression of growth. Either that or you just can't keep a job. I'm not quite sure which one that was, but you and I have had conversations many times on the phone, on Zoom, on the virtual breakfast sessions. And one of the things that you are a stickler for, because you grew up in the industry, is numbers. I see the restaurant business, which had been led by artistic means for the longest time, as now there's a seismic shift with the closing of restaurants like Kraft and all the restaurants that are closing in New York City right now that are good restaurants, established restaurants. I see numbers being more important than ever. Um, what do you hear from the people you work with, and what are you doing to try to curb this slide caused by not counting correctly?
Well, you're correct, Larry. I mean, you 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 could number yourself out of business pretty quickly if you're not watching those numbers. Uh, Customer counts is still a very important factor. I think watching your customer counts and of course your revenues, but it's managing that prime cost is what's really eating restaurateurs alive. And then of course in New York you've got overhead that's just kicking them in terms of debt service or lease rates. Um, those things become catastrophic if you would. Uh, you're right. Restaurateurs, whether you're an independent one restaurateur or you've got multiple restaurants or even the chains, I keep up with all three elements. I think that of the factions of our business, and I'm not really referring to fast food, but the space that I generally work in are full service restaurants, um, um, mid scale to fine dining. I We do some work, and we're pretty associated with fast casual. And when you say the number side of things, it's interesting because we saw fast casual for, I don't know, was it 27 quarters there before COVID, that just had growth, 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 growth. And then, of course, we all experienced the phenomena of 6 years ago, and then the rebound we had, if you would, in 21 and 22 because of the pent up demand. But then since 23, we've really seen that absolute concern and problematic piece of numbers. And here in 26, you're faced with continuing hiring, retaining staff. I think we have settled down on the inflationary front, but we've probably outpaced what the consumer is willing to pay and what we as restaurateurs have to charge because of prime costs. So the number side of thing is an enormous balance. And whether you're in New York, Manhattan, or out in uh, Long Island, or whether you're up in Boston or down in southeast part of the country in Florida, or the Midwest, or out where I'm at here in California right now, we're all faced with similar things, and that is attracting and retaining quality staff. I think that's extremely important. And the number side of attracting and retaining quality staff isn't always necessarily what you're paying people. I've seen some great articles recently. It's really about the culture. The cost of goods is still a concern. Inflationary components, beef prices continue to be at an extremely elevated level. So restaurateurs are faced with really a triple-edged sword. You've got inflationary when it comes to cost of goods. You've got attracting and retaining staff in terms of that cost. You've got then the third piece is that is consumer ability and desire, needs, wants, and desires to go out. How often are they dining out right now? And that's a numbers game too. What are we doing to attract, not only retain staff, but what are we doing to bring in new customers and have customers dine more often? And that is a real struggle for our industry right now. So it really is those three things that are just kicking everybody in the teeth a little bit. And it's a numbers side of things. You're right. I agree with you. It's a numbers piece. And to offset that, you've got to become, I think, more aggressive, not necessarily in spending money on promotions, but I think you have to get out in front of people. The old marketing word, TOMA, top of the mind awareness. How do we stay at the top of the mind? And the competition, I can't even imagine what the competition is like uh, to get that customer in, whether you're in New York or whether you're in Los Angeles or every point in between. The competition out there is large, and we're all competing for essentially the same consumer, and that consumer is gun shy right now. The consumer isn't dining out as much, and they're watching their pennies and their dimes and their quarters. And so it is a hard industry right now.
Yeah, in the past, when times were tough, the first thing people would do is cut out marketing. They'd cut out marketing, and it is the only thing, you got to do smart marketing, but marketing is not the answer to the first cut. What are you telling people on that?
Well, I think you've got to double check to see what you are marketing, your promotional side of things. How do you get people to look at you, and how do you get people to even give you trial? You don't have to spend enormous amounts of money. I think outreach is really what we're talking about. What is the smart way to do outreach? Is it, in terms of social media? Of course. I think any restaurateur that is not reviewing what their website has, I think that's one of the first steps. What's their Instagram look like? Just doing a check, making sure that you're relevant still, making sure that it's not expensive to keep your website up to date. It's not expensive to make sure your menu or that you're relevant and that you're posting on a regular basis, because that's the top of the mind awareness. The really, really great restaurateurs or even the independents, they're staying relevant. And I think that's the word. How do you stay relevant with the precious marketing dollars that you have? How do you make sure that it's relevant and it's impactful? It doesn't, to be a discounter, what we went through in 2008 through 2010, we saw a lot of the discounting. We saw the Grubhubs. We saw all those pieces where, you buy one, get one, you couponing, and that trained people to come in on deal. That is not what I'm suggesting, and nor I don't think you are either. You can't train the consumer to come in on deal, but you have to become uh, uh, relevant. And the relevancy of your Instagram, your TikTok, your social media, how do you get people to talk about you? Um, you got to also, I think, be aware of who that consumer is. If you're out there with Gen Z, Gen X, what is it? Who is it that you're attracting? Who, goes back to marketing 101. And, Larry, you were referring back to, uh, going into a reunion, but I think the three of us remember those things of marketing 101. And I think a lot of restaurateurs have forgot about that. How do you fulfill the needs, wants, and desires of the consumer and become relevant? And I think a lot of restaurateurs think, oh, I just got to, keep the splash up with Instagram.
So how do you do it? Do you do it through your food? How do you sample? Do you LTO? How do you do that?
I love LTOs, Fred. I do. I really like LTOs because it creates a reason for existing customers to want to come back in more often. It creates some excitement. It can create points of differentiation. That POD, I think, that's how you have to. I think the PODs, points of differentiation, through social media, through your website, through Instagram, through a TikTok. Maybe it's an event, but it's something to create a point of differentiation for people to talk about you. Influencers, for that Gen Z, they're all about the influencer. They want to see who's, what's the greatest and latest, if you would, the hottest. That's fun. Those influencers, do you hire influencers? They get expensive. I think you can find some other means other than doing influencers, getting people to talk about you, creating that point of differentiation when you have those special events. And I don't know, every restaurant's going to have something different. And that special event could be the LTO. It could be something that's dealing with what's happening in the local community. Obviously, we have a big event this Sunday. Father's Day,
right,
is starting to rival in a lot of restaurants Mother's Day, which is amazing to me, because we always thought that Mother's Day, Valentine's were the top two restaurant days, and they still are. They still are. But Father's Day has been climbing, and it's not just about barbecues in the backyard with dad or grandfathers, etc. There's opportunities for people to go out for breakfast, brunch, or even celebrating dads in the evening. It's becoming a great. It's a little late in the game here on the 17th of June to do that for this Sunday, but there there are certain days that are just you're just gonna you almost got to give up. I mean, we've got a big holiday coming up. What are you going to do on 4th of July? I got to tell you, it's going to be a problem for most restaurants just because, that's a tough one. And it's on a Friday, unfortunately. We're going to lose a Friday for most restaurateurs. So what are you going to do for the beginning of the week? What are you going to do to build up on the first, second, and third, or even to come in on Saturday the 5th? You can't just sit there and put your head in the sand and bury it like an ostrich. You got to think about, how can I be proactive to create an event, a point of differentiation to celebrate 250 years of America. And this isn't a political statement, because you don't want to get political. I mean, there's a lot of that going on already. But what do you want to do? Most people still are very proud of the fact that it's a 250th celebration of America. So do something different. Get out there. Do a $2.50 if you would. You could discount something $2.50 if you need to, or a $2.50. Play off the $250. Obviously, you're not going to do a $250 dinner necessarily, but play off the $250, play off the birthday, play off George. You can play off the founding fathers. You can have a dress up day. I've got clients right now that are saying, if you come in there right now, we have World Cup. World Cup's going through the middle of July. World Cup has had some amazing following. I mean, I saw a statistic off of the game, and I know we're recording and this is going to be in the future, but the Argentinian game last night was followed by an extraordinary amount of people because they wanted to see Messi, and he delivered it. He got a hat trick. So what are you going to do to celebrate that? I've got a client who they're Moroccan, and they're very proud of the Moroccan. They're doing wear any jersey, and we'll give you a free appetizer and dessert. It's working. A free appetizer. It's an event where any World Cup jersey, doesn't matter what country, any of the countries, and we'll give you a free appetizer and dessert. Those are the events that create the points of differentiation. We've got football season coming up. Believe it or not, it's coming faster than we think. It's we're really 8 short weeks away from preseason, and we got college. Those create points of differentiation. I think we have to give reasons for people to look at you and think about you. It's that top of the mind awareness. Numbers, Larry, going back to your numbers. Yeah, you can't give it away. We can't go back to 2008 to 2010 where we trained customers to come in on deal during that recession. It took almost a year to 2 years to untrain them. Don't do that. Yes, you can create a $2.50 drink, beverage, or some sort of special, but don't just start doing twofers. That'll kill you.
So let me ask you a question. So now we've talked about that the business was run by artistry, and now the numbers have creeped in. So what do you do? How do you form numerical artistry where you can take and rework your offerings so that you can still turn out a quality product, not charge an arm and a leg, and still have your restaurant whole?
Well, let's look at Brinker. I mean, the Chili's model has been an incredible story. What an incredible story the last 2.5, 3 years. Now their CEO, he's led an incredible comeback and an incredible turnaround, but they've done something in terms of a loss leader, if you would, of getting people in the door for $10.95 for most markets across the country. Only, and I know this because I study this, only 25% of the consumer that comes in the door buys that deal. Only 25%. They're coming in because of that deal, but they're training their staff, which is another piece. You talk about numbers, training. They're training the staff when the customer walks in the door and they're asking for the deal. They're teaching that wait staff to move the customer around the menu, and open-ended questions for other things, drinks, beverages. The reason that they're making money is because they're upselling other items. And I think that is the thing. You can create the excitement for people to come in the door on the numbers side to where you're not necessarily making a lot of money. Let's look at Costco for a second. Costco's been doing that $1.50 hot dog forever and ever and ever. And the CEO said, as long as he's CEO and as long as he's living, he's not going to change that $1.50. People come in for that $1.50, but they're moving people around. Costco moves people around that wholesale club better than anybody. And I'm not suggesting that any other group in the wholesale business is terrible at it. They're not. But Costco's moving them around the menu. Well, it's the same theory of what Applebee's is doing, what Chili's is doing, what Texas Roadhouse is doing. You're bringing them in for top of the mind awareness. Yes, they have the power of TV. They have the power of marketing. Sure, they do. But you can, as an independent, still do things with your list. And there's the other piece. Create that list. Get that custom. Get your list of website, of emails, texting. Those are not that expensive to create these lists of customers that you can communicate with through email and through texting. It's opt-in, sure it is, but you can at least create that piece and communicate those lost leaders, if you would, about those specials. Get them in, move them around the menu. You make those decisions that if 1095 is your number, at least you're breaking even. You can't give a 1095 special away and do a lousy job, to your point. You still have to give them something quality, because if you give them crummy service and a horrible food experience, then you fail. It doesn't work. But
it's no longer a deal.
You can still give them the 1095 or 1195 or 1495 or 1995, whatever the deal is, and get them in the door. But you've got to train that staff to move them around the menu. It starts from the parking lot in, and I've always said that. And we've talked about this on the virtual breakfast sessions before. The customer looks at the parking lot in. You look at the parking lot in, and you talked about number side. Your sponsor. I know you got to do a break here for our sponsor here today, but folks, I'll tell you what, if you could find nickels to dimes and to quarters, and you can get something done on tax returns and stuff like that, or employee, whatever, payroll tax, do it. Those dollars, those nickels and dimes turns into quarters. But if you could take those savings, put them into your marketing side, put those extra dollars into marketing, pay for the phone bill. Do something with those dollars. I'll let you go to you probably got to do your ad if that's a good time.
You've been on the show often enough to know that I'm about to say time is our enemy. And Richard, this has been a great experience. But before we go into that final bit of information that you're going to leave with the people, let me go back to Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Listen, Richard just talked to you about the pennies, nickels, and dimes. Listen, you're moving at 95 miles an hour during the day, and the truck comes in, and they unload 15 boxes, and you've got orders going out the kitchen and people waiting online, and you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you count 15 boxes. Look at the invoice; it says 15 boxes. Sign the paper, stick it on the pin, put the boxes away. How do you know what you've just got? Is it exactly what you ordered? Is it the amount you agreed to pay for it? Hey, if you don't have time to do this stuff, call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Listen, I didn't say it. Richard did. No, Richard did. I'm pointing in the wrong direction because it's you've got to count those pennies, because those pennies become dollars. Those dollars become $10, $100, $1,000. And they always say it's the big not the big expenditures that bring down a restaurant. It's those pennies that nobody lets that you can't detect. So call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group, and his people will sift through your invoices, your contracts, and make sure you're getting exactly what you pay for. Back to our show. Richard, once again, this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. But before we let you go, why don't you give the people, that one little bit of information that they should, keep in mind when they go back to their work or they start planning for the day? What should they be adding to their duties?
Well, it really is the employee side. And I really believe that we started down that track a little bit. Uh, you don't have to be sitting there thinking, I've got to pay more to keep everybody. You've got to create the culture within the organization, the ability for your staff to feel like they are part of something bigger, that they're part of the service side, that they are the reason that the group or the restaurant survives is because of the staff. And it starts, I had an old college professor who was my mentor, but he used to say, the fish stinks from the head first. And that is the truth. You got to look yourself in the mirror. You got to go in there every day. And whether you don't feel good about things, you better put on your good playing face, because you can ruin an entire shift as the owner, the general manager, the assistant manager, the executive chef, sous chef, kitchen manager. It's all about the fish being at the head first. And when you, as a restaurateur, whether you're a large restaurant doing $8 million a year or a small mom and pop doing $500,000 to $1.5 million to $2 million a year, look at yourself in the mirror. Be the person that you wanted to be when you got into this industry. Be the difference, become the difference, and make the difference as the leader.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Fred, anything to say?
No, just thank you to Richard. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure, gentlemen, and you all have a great rest of your day, and happy Father's Day to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too, Richard. Listen, we're going to be back again tomorrow. So look for us on YouTube, look for us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And basically, the only thing I have left to say is, everybody, stay positive, test negative. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.
Thank you.